morning, everybody. Although you're probably watching this in the evening, it's now morning with me, and I fell asleep last night before I made your story, so I'm really sorry. So, I don't know what you guys are going to do today, but I'm sure what I will do is I'll do you another video on my way home from work with your songs. Now, today, our bedtime story is called The Rescue of the Fairy Queen Maeve. High on an oak tree one morning in July, a fairy queen sat playing a fine tune. She plucked on her harp strings on an old Irish air. Her sweet lilting music was heard everywhere. Today was a day that she yearned to be free. Far away from her kingdom she wished she could be. Sometimes being queen, her patience was tested, but after playing her harp, she always felt rested. Unbeknownst to the queen, hiding right down below, was a creature in black with a face white as snow. The creature was wearing a smile ear to ear, and the thoughts it was thinking were far from sincere. Before the queen knew it, the banshee appeared and spread her back cloak, and they both disappeared. The queen was then taken to the cliffs by the sea and kept in a cave by the howling banshee. An hour or two passed till a search had begun. The fairies looked everywhere under the sun. They tried to imagine just where she would go. No queen could they find, though they looked high and low. The queen had been put deep into a trance to endlessly play the banshee's wild dance. She strummed on her harp through that entire morn, while her fingertips blistered and bleeding were torn. The banshee joined in with a terrible scream, and the poor fairy wished she could wake from her dream. But she didn't know then that back at the fort, the fairies had gathered around to hold court. They agreed on a plan, and they knew what to do. They'd send for the leprechauns Owen and Hugh. The duo were famous throughout fairyland, for their trickery and deeds were greater than grand. They soon had it out to look for the queen, and first start searching where last she was seen. Which everyone knew was the royal oak tree. They hoped for a clue to see where could she be. As Owen looked round, he scratched on his beard. Then through the damp leaves a small hedgehog appeared. He waddled around him and sniffed at his shoe, and told him a hawk in the tree had a clue. Owen called out, "Can you please come down here?" The hedgehog said, "You saw the queen disappear." "Yes," said the hawk, "she was with the banshee. They vanished this morning from this very tree. I watched the dark spirit take her away to a cave, and I'm sure that's where you will find your Queen Maeve. So climb on my wings and I'll take you right now." "Well, thank you kindly," said Hugh with a bow. "Be japers," said Hugh, "there's a crow flying by, and I notice a very strange look in its eye. Although I'm not certain of what it could be, I wonder if it could be the banshee." Well, this hunch was correct, for the crow turned around and tried to knock Owen and Hugh to the ground. It lunged at the hawk and pecked hard at its beak. "Stay away," shrieked the crow, "if it's the queen that you seek." The banshee flew off as the hawk tried to land. "Well, good luck if she thinks we'll obey her command," said Hugh as he waved a goodbye to the hawk as he circled above them, heading off on a walk. Hugh then asked Owen had he thought of a plan. "Are you codding me?" he said. "Sure, I'm a silly man. First we've to find her, and then we'll proceed with Her Majesty's rescue, so stay close and heed." So the pair kept on looking and listening to hear if the banshee or fairy queen somehow were near. And deep in the cave the queen kept on strumming while hoping and praying her heroes were coming. "Did you hear that?" said Owen. "It must be the Queen. How do you suppose... Oh, at least she's alive, though she hasn't been seen. How do you suppose we're going to get through? With this rock in the way, and only us two." Then Hugh said, "Let's see if there's a little hole, and we'll squeeze in and rescue her. How's that for a go?" "Oh, you're very good," said Owen quite brightly. "Well, come then," said Hugh, "let's go very quietly." While the waves splashed down, the pair looked about, till Hugh saw a crack. "We'll get through there, no doubt." So with pushing and shoving, the pair did succeed, and they lowered themselves with pure leprechaun speed. The cave was in darkness except for one spot, where the Queen she sat in dampness and rot. When the Queen saw the boys, she cried out, "Who are you? Pleased to meet you, your Majesty. I'm Owen, that's Hugh. We were hired by our subjects when they voted at court to carry you safely back home to your fort. So please can we leave here as quick as can be, before the return of the evil Banshee." Just then the Banshee returned to her cave, and Owen and Hugh did their best to look brave. The Banshee howled, "There'll be no rescue today. Since a spell has been cast, only me she'll obey. And now you'll pay dearly for acting so sly. Since you have all seen me, prepare for you to die." But Owen recalled an old leprechaun spell, and lifted his arms and let out a yell. Dul amok, Banshee dul amok. Os an tíorna anish dul amok, dul amok. A moment went by, then Owen could see they were well rid of the wailing Banshee. The spell was now broken, and the Queen jumped up free and flew around the cave so joyously. With the spirit now gone from her evil dark den, the Queen gave them thanks, those little brave men. They quickly got out of that dark, dreary cave and returned to the fort with the beautiful Maeve. Now safe and set free, the Queen was delighted, and the leprechaun heroes, well, they were both knighted. And all was well throughout Fairyland, for Owen and Hugh did exactly as planned. Now Fairyland's back to its normal routine, and Queen Maeve's more content with her duty as queen, and the fairies still talk of those leprechauns brave, and remember the rescue of Fairy Queen Maeve. Love you guys.